today's video we are going to be doing another tier list today, and we're going to be doing a tier list ranking managerial appointments for the 24-25 season. So I thought this would be a pretty interesting idea, considering the football season is drawing to a close now, and obviously a lot of clubs have made managerial changes at the start of the season and during it too. So as we sort of now know where teams' seasons are going to end up, we can now start to judge these managers on a season basis. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I've compiled a tier list of the most notable managerial changes in Europe's top 5 leagues this season. I'm going to put them into these tiers. So we have the appointment of the season, so I'm only going to choose one who I think was the best managerial appointment of this season. Now I'm not going to, with this, only just judge it off this season, but also, I guess, sort of long term as well. Good appointment, average, give them time, which is for managers who maybe have only fairly recently come into the job, or maybe, need some time to implement their stuff. Still, the jury's out on them. A poor appointment and an awful managerial appointment. So, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them in the comments below. But let's just dive straight into it. So, here we are. We've got about 27-ish managers here. So we start with Julian Lopetegui. So, Lopetegui was, at the start of the season, appointed the new West Ham manager. He succeeded David Moyes. Now, at the time, I thought it was, well, one, I thought it was a little bit weird considering West Ham sort of got rid of Moyes because of the style of play. Now, Lopetegui's style of play I didn't think was particularly progressive or attacking, so I wasn't too keen on it, but I did think Lopetegui was a solid manager and wouldn't, mess things up completely. However, it was a truly awful appointment. I think Lopetegui was gone before the turn of the year. Just started off really, really bad at West Ham, and don't think he ever got the fans on his side. The style of play was awful. The defence in particular, I mean, they were one of the worst teams defensively in the Premier League under Lopetegui. I don't really know what happened. It just wasn't the right fit for Lopetegui. I still think he's a solid manager, but it was a disastrous appointment, and he was gone halfway into the season. And his replacement was Graham Potter. With Graham Potter, he came in, and I mean, he's done the job in terms of steering West Ham away from relegation. But I think, give them time. I think the jury is well and truly still out on Graham Potter. He's come in, sort of just shut them up at the back defensively. It hasn't really been, pretty football instilled yet. There's some bits here and there of his philosophy, but it's still early days, and he hasn't really been able to get a full grasp on the team yet. And I think the jury is definitely still out on Potter. Let's see how he does at the start of next season with a full pre-season under his belt and some signings through the door. So give him time. Okay, next up we have Paulo Fonseca, who actually appears twice on this tier list because, so at the start of the season he was appointed the new AC Milan manager, and that ended disastrously. It was an awful appointment. He replaced Pioli. I thought it was a pretty good move. Fonseca did a pretty good job at Lille beforehand, but he came in and his style of play just did not work at AC Milan for whatever reason. They were doing awful in the league. They were not doing, actually to be fair, they had some pretty good results under him in the Champions League. Like they went to the Bernabeu and beat Real Madrid under him, which was probably one of the only highlights of his tenure. But he was gone very quickly at Milan. However, he got a job at Olympique Lyon, and actually at Lyon got them past Man United into the Europa League semis. Was rather unfortunate not to go through there, but they're in the race for Champions League football in the league, in Ligue 1. And yeah, I think overall he's done a pretty good job since joining Lyon. And if they do get Champions League football, then it would definitely be a successful appointment by them. So pretty weird, two ends of a spectrum here for Fonseca. Next up, we have David Moyes, who came in halfway through the season to replace Sean Dyche at Everton, and it's been a good appointment. Definitely a good appointment. Maybe you could even argue a contender for appointment of the season, but I'm not sure he's quite done enough of that. Just because I feel like, he came into a squad where I think the basis was sort of there for him. It just wasn't working under Dyche, and then Moyes comes in and he's just got them so well drilled and has got them into a really good team. I always thought the bits were sort of there for Everton. They just needed someone to put them together, and that's sort of what Moyes has done, which is why I'm not going to say appointment of the season contender, but he has been a really good appointment. He has steered them well clear of relegation and a comfortable mid-table Premier League side now. I think he's only lost like 3 or 4 games since he's actually been in charge at Everton, which is remarkable. So really, really well done to David Moyes. Next up we have Carlos Corberán. So Carlos Corberán left West Brom mid-season to join Valencia in La Liga. Now this was a pretty controversial move at the time because Corberán under West Brom were doing very well in the Championship. They were pushing for playoffs and promotion. However, he left for mid-season for Valencia in La Liga, who is of course a big club, but at the time I believe were 19th, maybe even 20th in the Spanish league. They were in real danger of going down and being relegated, so there's a real risk for him to join, but it's been a good appointment. Carlos Corberán has come in and he has steered them away from that relegation. Now, they could still go down, they're still in and around that area, but as of recording, they are fairly safe for now, and it does look like they probably will stay up. That is something I should also mention as well, that obviously the season is not over, so at the end of the season these things might change. Like if they do go down, then yeah, Corberán maybe wasn't a good appointment, but it does look like Valencia will stay up because Carlos Corberán has come in and he's done a really good job. He's gone to the Bernabeu and beat Real Madrid as well, so he's pulled off some really good results, and yeah, a good appointment. Next up, Ivan Juric, who technically could also be a Fonseca here, could also be here twice. He joined Roma midway through the season, and I mean it was awful. He only lasted like 10 games there, so that's why I didn't even include him, because he was gone before he even started there because it was so bad. But he's here for a Southampton spell. Now, obviously the Southampton spell did not work out, got relegated fairly comfortably, but I don't think you can pin it all on Juric. He inherited a very bad situation, and I don't think there was ever really a chance of him coming in and saving them. But I mean, you have to say, I guess it's an awful appointment. Yeah, he came in, I think he only won 1 or 2 games as manager, and led them to the earliest relegation in Premier League history. So, I mean, off that basis, it's an awful appointment, but it does feel a little bit harsh considering he inherited such a bad team who were pretty much down before he got through the door. Right, next up we have Juric's successor at Roma, Claudio Ranieri, who for me is actually an appointment of the season contender. It's kind of gone under the radar for me what Claudio Ranieri has done at Roma this season. He joined a team who they started the the season with Daniela De Rossi in charge. He was gone after about 7 or 8 games into the season. Ivan Juric comes in, does even worse. He was gone after like 10 games or something. The team halfway through the season are down in like the bottom half of Serie A. Their season, Ranieri comes into the end of the season, it's sort of like a write-off season. No one's expecting anything from him, just steady the ship and we'll move on to the next season. Instead, Claudio Ranieri, I mean, he rolls back the years here and he has been on a tear with Roma. I think he's only lost like 2 games since he's been in charge of Roma. It's pretty remarkable. They've been on a crazy run under him. They were unfortunate to get knocked out of the Europa League, I think, to Bilbao in the end. But he has turned them from a bottom half Serie A side into a team who are contending right now for a Champions League spot in Serie A, which is truly remarkable. Now, they probably won't get top 4, but even just to be in with the shout of it come this stage of the season, no one was expecting it when Ranieri came in, so for me he's an appointment of the season contender. He's done a great job, and I believe at the end of the season he's going to be going into like a technical director role, so yeah, it's really nice to see Ranieri rolling back the years, I guess. Next up we have Sergio Conceição. So Fonseca's successor at AC Milan, Sergio Conceição, came in through the door after Fonseca left, and it started off pretty well. I think he came in through the door whilst they were playing the Super Cup. He won the Super Cup, beat Inter Milan, their biggest rivals, in the final. Everyone sort of thought, you know, they found the right guy, but it quickly went downhill and it's not gone well. Milan, I mean, he has got them a little bit better, but they're nowhere near the Champions League spots. They are just about competing for a Conference League, Europa League spot at this point. Now they are still in the Coppa Italia as of recording, so they could actually end the season with a cup win. And he did win the Super Cup, so for that reason I'm going to say poor appointment, not awful. But Conceição has come in and he hasn't really had the great impact people expected. It's very likely he's leaving at the end of the season already, and won't be staying with them next year. Okay, next up we have Fabian Hürzeler for Brighton. So he obviously came in to replace Roberto De Zerbi in the summer, and I mean, it started off really well for Fabian Hürzeler, but I think overall it's been a bit of a season of inconsistencies at Brighton. We have seen some really good stuff at points, and I think we've seen the bits here and there of just how good Hürzeler's Brighton can be, but we've also seen the bad. We've also seen a lot of sort of learning curves and poor results here and there, so I'm going to say overall average. I think Hürzeler has done a okay job at Brighton so far. I'm interested to see what he does in a second season at Brighton, but I think his first season has been fine, so average. Ruben Amorim. Okay, so obviously replaced Ten Hag midway through the Premier League season at United. This one's tough, but I think I'm gonna say give them time. I think the jury is definitely still out on Amorim. It's obviously not been good at all under Amorim. In fact, it's maybe even got worse than it did under Ten Hag. But I'm not sure all of that is really his fault. He has inherited such a bad squad and a dire situation that you can't really pin the blame all on him. Now, he does have to take some blame for the way the season has gone under him. But I think overall, you give him time, and as I said, the jury's still out. Next season we can properly judge Amorim. But for now, yeah, I mean, if he wins the Europa League, then yeah, that is something, that's something good. But overall, I think either way I'm pulling him and give them time, because let's see what Amorim does next season. I think definitely still question marks over him. as United manager. Next up, we have Antonio Conte, who is definitely a appointment of the season. Has come into a side which, let's not forget, last season didn't even qualify for the Conference League. They lost their best striker, Victor Osimhen, in the summer. They lost their best player, Gavicha, midway through the season in January, and yet they are still in the hunt to win Serie A this season. What a remarkable job Antonio Conte has done with Napoli. You know, let's see if they win it. If they win it, that might change things even more. If they don't, maybe not. But either way, even if they don't win the league, it's still been a fantastic appointment and a fantastic season by Antonio Conte. Now let's see if it all implodes next season like it typically does. But you have to say, for now, what an appointment and what an amazing job he has done. Next up, we have Roberto De Zerbi, who left Brighton in the summer for Marseille in France, and I mean, it's been a bit of an up and down spell at Marseille. It started off remarkably well. They did fantastic under him, and it looked like they could even contend PSG for the title. But it quickly fell away, and they've had some really good highs, but some really bad lows this season. However, that being said, I would say overall it's been a good appointment. They are still in the race for the Champions League right now. It's very tight in France, but if I had to put my money on it, I would say they probably do get the Champions League. And if he gets them back into the Champions League, I would say that is a successful season and a good appointment. So for now, I'll say good appointment. Next up, we have Vitor Pereira for Wolves, and I would say good appointment. Similar to Moyes, definitely you could argue an appointment of the season contender for sure. But for me, I'm just gonna say good appointment because he's come in and he has turned this Wolves team from a relegation contender into a team comfortably now outside of the relegation zone. They look very good and are ending the season very strong under him. He's done fantastic, but similar to Moyes, I think I always thought this with Wolves, that their squad was good enough to stay up. They just needed to get a good manager to come in and they would be fine, and I think Pereira has done exactly that. But you still have to give him massive props. Fantastic season, and he has really saved their season, so I'm excited to see what he does next year. Good appointment for sure. Arne Slot is definitely a appointment of the season contender, of course. Came in to replace Jurgen Klopp in the summer, and I mean, it's easy to forget now that when he joined and when Klopp left, a lot of people were predicting, oh, you know, Liverpool are going to completely fall away. It's the demise of Liverpool. Similar to how Wenger left Arsenal, Fergie left United. It's going to be the Banter era of Liverpool. He didn't get a single signing. He got Chiesa, who barely plays in the summer, and yet he has got that exact squad that Klopp had last season and turned them into comfortable title winners this year. It's pretty remarkable what he's done. Fantastic season, fantastic appointment. I'm intrigued to see what happens next year if he can sustain this, but you have to say definitely an appointment of a season contender for sure. Next up, we have Vincenzo Italiano. So Italiano left Fiorentina last year and joined Bologna at the start of this season, and at Bologna he has done a really good job. It has definitely been a good appointment. Let's not forget Bologna had an amazing season last year under Thiago Motta, but they lost their manager because they even lost some of their best players like Joshua Zirkzee, Riccardo Calafori. They lost a lot of key individuals last season, so a lot of people thought it was a one season thing, they're going to drop off. But Italiano has come in and made them arguably even better. They look really good. They are still competing to qualify for the Champions League again this season, which is fantastic. Again, let's see if they get it or not. But I think even if they don't, it's been a good appointment to get them in the running to be in the top 4 race this late in the season, considering, the amount of people they lost in the summer. When you look at the squad, it's not an amazing squad. It's remarkable. So Italiano has done a good job for sure, and they might even end up with a trophy too for in the Coppa Italia final. Right, next up we have Palladino, who was Italiano's replacement at Fiorentina, and I would say Palladino has been a good appointment at Fiorentina. Italiano really did build Fiorentina up. He did a fantastic job there. He was there for a few years. So Palladino came in from Monza. He had quite a difficult task to do to emulate what Italiano has done, but I think he's done a pretty good job. Fiorentina have been in the race for Champions League football this season. I don't think they're going to get it, but they've been in the race for most of the year. They're still in the Conference League. They're in the semi-finals right now, so they could end with a trophy too. And overall, they haven't really dropped off at all. They've done very well this season under Palladino, so good appointment. Next up, Nuri Sahin for Borussia Dortmund. So Sahin replaced Edin Terzic at the start of this season, and I mean, it was an awful appointment. Sahin just did not do well at Dortmund. I always thought it was a little bit weird, to be honest. I wasn't entirely sure why they got rid of Terzic, particularly after he just got them into a Champions League final. But maybe there was sort of disagreements with the board, but they brought in an experienced gamble in Nuri Sahin, former player, and it didn't work out. He was gone halfway through the season with Dortmund, like mid-table. However, his replacement Niko Kovac has come in and done a really good job. He's been a good appointment. He has salvaged this season for Dortmund. They were in a pretty bad spot under Sahin. He's turned them from a mid-table side into a team that might even qualify for the Champions League this season, and if they do that, it might even be an appointment of the season. Similar to Ranieri, all hope was lost, but under mid-table team into a top 4 contender, he's done very well, and you do have to give him credit. Although I will say that he did inherit a pretty good squad, and I think it was more so Sahin just really underperforming, rather than Kovac doing an absolutely insane job, which is why I'm not going to say appointment of the season contender. But if he does get top 4, then it is a fantastic job Kovac has done. Next up we have Enzo Maresca for Chelsea, and I mean, yeah, gosh, this is difficult. As a Chelsea fan, obviously came in for Pochettino from Leicester in the summer, and it started off really well. It really did, but it has quickly gone downhill. The second half of the season has been abysmal, and for me, I'm gonna say it's been a poor appointment. Look, I think Maresca has shown some decent parts and some bad parts, but overall this season we have to get Champions League football. Now we might get Champions League football, but the way it's looking right now, if I had to put my money on it, I don't think we are. We're playing quite bad right now, and I mean, when you look at, I guess, all of these guys, right, there was so many managers we could have gone for. We went for a inexperienced gamble, and I'm not sure it's completely paid off. That he might get us Champions League football, and I'll be very happy with it. But realistically, if I'm being real here, is Maresca gonna be the guy at Chelsea? I highly doubt it, and I think overall it's probably been a poor appointment. If I'm just basing it off the fact that we're probably not gonna get Champions League football this season, and that would be a failure. Okay, next up we have Thiago Motta. So Motta left Bologna at the start of this season to join Juventus and replace Max Allegri, but it never really worked out. I'm gonna say it was a poor appointment. I don't think it's awful, because like these guys came in and like destroyed their clubs. Like they did really bad damage to their clubs, whereas Motta came in and, there were some promising signs and some bad signs, but overall it never worked out. It was really dull football. The players just never really adapted to his system, his style of play. It never suited Juventus, And in the end, they crashed out in the round of 32 in the Champions League, and I think when he left them, they were sort of like 5th or 6th. So, as I said, it didn't leave him in like a disastrous state, which is why it was not an awful appointment. But it certainly wasn't what they hoped for, and they had to sack him. Sort of like with 10 games to go of the season, and Igor Tudor has come in, and I mean, it's really early days, so for me, I think average. I think he's done a perfectly fine job so far, though. He's only managed like 4 games or something, but I think he's won almost all of them. Yeah, he's come in, and he's just stabilised the boat, stabilised the ship for now. Yeah, average. Vincent Company is next. Now, this is one of the hardest ones, I think, on this list. I think because, you see, Vincent Company will probably end the season a Bundesliga champion, a German champion, and obviously Bayern didn't win the league last season, so that is a very good achievement. If you're just looking at that, then maybe you say, appointment of the season, right? But the problem is, a team like Bayern is not judged just solely on their Bundesliga performance. They're also judged on their Champions League performance, and quite frankly, the Champions League performance under Company has been pretty underwhelming. They had some pretty embarrassing losses to the likes of to Barca, Villa, Feyenoord, just about got past Celtic. They reached the quarterfinals in the end and lost to Inter, which I guess is there's no shame in that. But overall, it's not been scintillating, I guess, and I guess that I still have question marks over whether Company is 100% the man for Bayern. But that being said, I would say overall it's been a good appointment. He has come in, he has reclaimed their throne on the top of the Bundesliga. He has, something I do give him credit for, implemented a very clear style and identity of play. That was something which was lacking under Thomas Tuchel at Bayern, so I'll give him that. Yeah, he's going to win the league at the end of the day, so it is a good appointment, but I still have question marks over him. Next up, Hansi Flick, who I definitely don't have question marks over, a appointment of a season contender for sure. I mean, what he's done with his Barca squad is quite truly remarkable. He inherited a team which was nowhere near the title last year under Xavi, had serious holes in the side. A lot of people were doubting a lot of the players, like Rafinha. People were calling bums and thinking they were going to sell. He didn't really get too many signings in the summer either because Barca were broke, and he has transformed them into a team who currently, as of recording, are still in for a treble. It's pretty remarkable. Now, they could end the season completely trophyless, which would be very disappointing, but even then, he has instilled, like Company, a clear style of play, but he has produced some big results, and will likely produce at least one, surely, trophy, and maybe even 3, so appointment of the season. Next up, we have Marco Baroni. So Baroni came in at Lazio to replace, I think it was Sarri in the end last summer. I believe he was at Hellas Verona last season, Baroni, but he has actually done a good job. I think it's been a good appointment. Lazio were quite a mess, to be honest. They were really bad last year, but he's come in and transformed them into a side competing for the Champions League. They have fallen off. They started the season off really well. They have fallen off a bit. But overall, I mean, yeah, they're still in the race for European spots. Maybe he underperformed slightly in the Europa League, losing to Bodo Glimt. But overall, I would say he's done a pretty good job getting Lazio back in European contention. Next up, we have Steve Cooper, who obviously was Leicester manager at the start of the season, replacing Maresca. I never really understood it when they signed him because, an ex-Forest man was never going to be behind the fans. The fans were never going to be behind him, sorry. I thought his style of play was vastly different to Maresca's too, and it never really worked out. He was gone fairly quickly into the season. But to be honest, I'm going to say it was a poor appointment. I don't think it was awful because actually Steve Cooper, I think when he left, had them sort of just outside or maybe just inside the relegation zone. So they were fighting under him, but it never worked out. They were on a downward trajectory under him, and he did only last half a season. Ruben Nistelrooy come in and had done an awful job. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's not worked out. He started off pretty well, had a nice little couple games, new manager bounce, but it has quickly fallen off, relegated them without really any fight whatsoever. He did inherit a really bad squad and a really bad situation, which I will give him some slack for, but overall, it's been awful. It's been awful. Right, so now it's time to decide my appointment of the season. I need to drop 3 of these down. I can only have 1. So, it's tough, but I think Claudio Ranieri has to be dropped simply because these guys might win a trophy, and while Ranieri's done great at Roma, he's probably not going to win a trophy. So it's between Antonio Conte, Arne Slot and Hansi Flick. Wow, this is really difficult. This is really, really difficult. Oh man. I think I have to drop Conte simply because, I mean, if he wins the league, I wouldn't drop him, but it's only an if, right? There's a very good chance they won't. Like, out of these 3, they may be the most unlikely to win the league. So, for that reason, I'm going to drop him. But if they do win the league, then yeah, it would be remarkable. And it's also, I'm sort of thinking long term here. I'm not sure he's going to be sticking around for too long, whereas these guys I can see generally sticking around for a while. So for me, it's between Flick and Slot for the best managerial appointment of the season. And I'm going to give it to Hansi Flick. I'm going to give it to Hansi Flick. I think simply because he inherited a much, much worse situation than Arne Slot did. Slot came into a side where under Jurgen Klopp he left some really good foundations, you know. He had Van Dijk and Salah and Trent, who are some of the best players in the world, Alisson. He had a real good core group of players there, and Slot has done a great job, of course, to extract that out of them. But I think of Hansi Flick and the situation he inherited where under Xavi they had no identity of play, they looked really dull. Players like Rafinha, as I said, were pretty much out the door, and he has turned him into a Ballon d'Or favourite all of a sudden. He has brought through a bunch of La Masia kids, he's got a really young squad. Yet he's still managing it so well, you know, people like Marc Casado, Alejandro Balde, Gavi, Pedri are all great players, but they're really young as well. Yet he has managed them so well. He's got Lewandowski, who's like 38, and he's still getting him to score a bunch of goals. It's really remarkable. He's got even players like Ferran Torres again, who people dismissed, is now a really good key contributor to the team. Inigo Martinez at the back, like, I don't think he inherited one world-class player when he joined. So for that reason, Hansi Flick is the best managerial appointment, and I think he has done the best managerial job of any new manager this season. But there we go, that is my tier list. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed, please do leave a like. Consider subscribing